Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Portishead Town Council. Couple of bits of housekeeping to start with. There are fire exits located. I've got the Eve Wigan one. Okay, let's go the other way. We're not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building via the nearest exit, which is out the front, and we will congregate in the car park across the road for a roll call to make sure no one's been left behind in the building. This is a public meeting, and any members of the public who wish to are entitled to record the meeting. So, apologies for absence. We have apologies from Martin Dowling, who's got health reasons, Bob Cartwright, who has a prior engagement, Alan George, and Tim Snaden for health reasons. So we're just going to take a quick vote. Oh, Tim's online, but yeah, we just have to take a quick vote to approve their absence. So all those in favour of approving their absence? Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest?
None that I'm aware of.
No, that's fine. Are we going to go around the room?
I'm aware of.
So none that I'm aware of?
None that I'm aware of.
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 Okay, swiftly on to the chairman's update report. Some of you may have noticed that there's an election being called, both the general election and a couple of Portishead Town Council by-elections. So we are officially in what's called the election period, or PERDA. Due to this, we'd be unable to allow any candidates in any of these elections to speak at this meeting or at any discussion of election-related subjects. This is purely for this meeting because we are in the period called PERDA. As an update, I have attended the Sea Shanty Festival at Hall and Woodhouse as chair of the council and the Bristol Channel Sailing Club rally as chair of the council. Quick announcement about Portishead Football Club. It's received a grant from the Football Foundation and construction has started on the artificial playing surface at Bristol Road. Work is expected to take about 3 months. The Hall's refurbishment project, we've appointed a project management company. Portishead Town Council are awaiting firm costings of all the proposed works required for this refurbishment project, which will come back to this council in due course. A quick note on safety at the marina. Following a letter we sent to North Somerset Council, we have today received a response and further details on the safety inspections that have taken place, as well as further details on the coroner's report. This item's on the agenda later, so it was just that we've only just received that today, so we won't be discussing what's in that one until a later date. And then we move on to public participation. It says here, relating to matters on agenda items. Please note, this is for members of the public to speak to agenda items or to give their ideas or comments on council business. This must not be used to spread misinformation or to make personal comments about individuals. Do I have anybody who wishes to speak in the room? Do we have people online? If anybody online wishes to speak, can they raise their hands and we'll get them in as soon as we can?
I think I'm on. Am I on? First of all, obviously, you're curtailing public participation because you don't like the public. That's the first thing. I did attend the residents' meeting. Well, it wasn't a residents' meeting, really. It was a party political broadcast on behalf of the Portishead Independent Party, and the residents weren't really involved. except one resident, a Mr. Gardner. He was allowed to speak, but none of the other residents were allowed to speak till at least 9:45. In other words, you filibustered the agenda so much, it was so late that a lot of the people left by then. But Mr. Gardner was allowed to speak, and I don't understand why that is. Who is Mr. Gardner? Is he a resident just like the rest of us? And what did he say? He had the audacity to accuse the people of Portishead of being in the same mantra of Joe.
Okay, can I just stop you there?
No, you can't.
For a
Are
second.
you stopping me from speaking?
No, I'm just asking you to pause for a second, just to consider.
Come on, Mr. White, what have I done wrong?
Just to consider that that we're here to discuss this council and not individuals.
The residents' meeting is one of the most important meetings that this council holds. You called the residents' meeting and we okay. However, we weren't allowed to speak to 9:45 except Mr. Gardner. And what did he say? He had the audacity to say the people of Portishead were in the same bracket of the people who murdered Joe Cox and Mr. Ames.
Okay, if you're going to continue in this vein, I'm going to ask you to stop, because this is not what was said at that
It
meeting.
was, I was there. Are you deaf? I was there.
We have a recording of the meeting.
Okay, put it on then and see what he said. That's what he said.
And
he also said,
and this is
he
not
also
on the
said-
agenda for this meeting.
just a minute, it was also said that there's an altercation and the children rushed home crying their eyes out. Actually, there was no children there, so that was a lie straight away. So why don't you people actually tell the truth?
So are we going to be talking about things
Not
which are
the-
on
let
the
me-
agenda to do with this
let me
council,
tell
or are
you
you going to
about-
go
let
on
me
about
tell
the
you-
residents'
Let me
meeting?
tell you about the most vilified council there's ever been in this building. And that was the last Tory council. You absolutely hammered them, your party. They even accused your
So
party even accused them of taking bribes.
I'm sorry, Ken, but we are absolutely off piste on this conversation
In
here.
other words, you don't
So-
want... Are you going to bully me like that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have to adjourn the. Sorry, everybody, I'm going to have to adjourn the meeting at this stage. The meeting is adjourned. Sue, I believe you wanted to speak in public participation. Would you like to come up and do that now?
Good evening. Just before I left home tonight, I did actually read all of the minutes, which took a little while. 663 pages is quite a lot of attachments. But one thing I noticed is that under TC 134/05/24, public participation relating to meeting items agenda. And the first the first person who spoke is just called Resident 1, Portishead Resident 1. And I thought, okay, a few years ago, we did have a meeting when it was changed to resident this, that, and the other. But nobody was happy with that, and we went back to people's names. So I thought, okay, we've gone back to as we had done at a previous meeting. But then I went to the and there was more from Portishead Resident 1. Then we came to people with names, and I don't understand why that was done. Why it was, why one person's name was not put on there, whereas everybody else who had spoke was. And that was my question for tonight.
All right, thanks a lot, Sue. I actually don't know the answer to that question. I thought exactly the same when I saw the minutes. Do we know why? I think Wendy took the minutes and she's away at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say we can always come back and confirm whether it's that we didn't have a name or whether that person wished to remain
unnamed. But yeah, we can certainly investigate and come back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else who wishes to speak in public participation?
I actually wasn't going to speak tonight. I'd like to say never before have I seen such terrible behaviour from councillors than what I've seen tonight. But sadly, I have seen that behaviour before by the same councillor who my good friend Ken said was bullied in this meeting. He was shaking like a leaf.
Okay, Paul, we're back to this again. We are not here, you are not here to make accusations against people in this council. We're here to transact council business. If you can't work within that framework, then please sit down.
Let's try a different subject. The residents' meeting. Sadly, I couldn't come to the residents' meeting because about an hour before, I found my poor mum dead. But what I have done is I've been watching videos online. And so far, I haven't seen one single person who spoke at that meeting, apart from supporters of the Portishead Independent Party, who actually said anything favourably about this council. Surely, at some stage, you're going to sit here and think, actually, we have got this wrong. The residents' meeting was hijacked by you, Mr. Chairman. This Portishead Independent Party, when they came into power, they gave a pledge that they would have an independent chairman. The minute you're sat in that chair, you hijacked the meeting. We didn't have a residents' meeting from what I can see, and I've watched it all online.
And again, we are off council business.
How is it off council business when I'm talking about the last meeting that you held?
You're talking about the residents' meeting.
The last meeting that was held in here that the public were able to come to. How's that not
Sorry,
council business?
are you referring to the Portishead annual residents' meeting?
Yes.
Yes. There we go.
A meeting that was held in this hall for Portishead residents.
Many meetings are held in this hall for Portishead residents, Paul, as you know. Do you want to bring up a point or a question?
It's absolutely pointless trying to raise any questions. It's pointless trying to raise any points.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
I do.
Is there anything further you wish to say?
I've been coming to these council meetings for 18, 19 years. Never, ever have I seen this council at such a low ebb as it's at now. Absolutely terrible. And your behaviour, Councillor Johnson, towards
I'm sorry, that's it.
Absolutely.
You've been told not to call people out, not to make accusations against people.
You don't think his behaviour...
I'm sorry, you can't speak off microphone.
If you don't think
I am suspending the meeting again. So before we proceed any further, do we have anybody online who wishes to speak? I know it's been a bit confusing. We've stopped and started this meeting a couple of times, but if you'd like to speak, please put your hand up. I can't see the screen, so if anyone can tell me if any hands are up, that's great. Okay, do we have anybody else in the room who would like to speak in public participation? Okay, so no hands up for that one. Moving on from public participation, we come to the North Somerset Councillors' report. Due to us being in the pre-election period, we will not be receiving any reports from North Somerset councillors or committee chairs in this meeting. The pre-election period is called PERDA, and there's certain restrictions, so we're not going to to push our luck and try and do anything that may compromise us during that period. And I have a technology malfunction. Item number 7 on the agenda is to consider and approve the minutes of the last meeting. The draft minutes of the annual council meeting held on the 8th of May 2024 and the extraordinary council meeting held on the 22nd of May 2024. These have been attached and circulated in the room. Does anybody wish to make any amendments to those or to speak to them?
Sorry, Roger, I was only going to mention, obviously, on the
Emma.
basis of Sue's comment, do we need to hold off for the addition of any names for the residents' comments? Okay, fantastic.
No, it's not a requirement to have any members of the public named in there. But if that was an oversight, then we will fix it. But we can sign them off as a true record, unless anybody has any changes they would like to propose. So I'm looking round, I can see no changes. So the recommendation is for members to consider and approve the minutes of the annual council meeting held on the 8th of May 2024 and the extraordinary council meeting held on the 22nd of May 2024, and for the chairman to sign the minutes as a correct record. So can I just ask for a show of hands for all those in favour? Oh, do we need a proposer and seconder? Oh, there we go. So I'll propose those. Can we have a seconder, please? And all those in favour? Oh, there's definitely something wrong with my computer. Let's see if I can carry on. If you could just bear with me a second. No, I've made some amendments to the order of business and the notes here. And unfortunately, instead of scrolling down, it's just, let's make it smaller and see if I can work my way down it. Okay, so item 8 is a motion on marina safety. This is on your agenda, but I'm proposing a slight different wording on this one. As I mentioned earlier, we've received a letter back from North Somerset, but it hasn't been distributed yet because it only came in late today. So we'll need to take some time to look at that. So the revised wording is Portishead Town Council supports the installation of safety railings at the narrow pathway along the west side of the marina between the water's edge and the boundary of Portishead Primary School. Portishead Town Council will send a letter to North Somerset Council with proposals for the exact location and reasons why this is necessary for public safety. So that's the wording that I put out for the motion. Does anybody want to propose and second that? David and Janet, yeah. And does anybody wish to speak to it? Okay. So, sorry. Yes. Yeah, so we're now going to take a vote. So all those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. I think that's unanimous. So this is where at item number 9, which was the internal audit report, I'm just proposing that we change the order of business and bring up the agenda item number 18, climate declaration. There can be no doubt that there is a climate crisis. But this isn't about forcing people out of their cars or making everybody walk or cycle everywhere. It's about supporting people to make the changes that they want in their lives. Be that by arranging upcycling or repair, the provision of cycle storage, or help with retrofitting their homes. In short, we want to make sure that we are thinking about the climate and biodiversity crisis in everything we do. We now have a short video, followed by a presentation from Mike Johnston.
Climate change is an urgent global challenge. Extra greenhouse gases in the atmosphere as a result of human activity have already increased the temperature of the planet by more than 1 degree centigrade. Further warming is inevitable up to at least the middle of the century, even as we try to cut the polluting emissions around the world that cause it. People, nature, infrastructure, and business are already vulnerable to the risks this will bring. The UK is being increasingly affected by climate change. We are already experiencing hotter summers, warmer winters, and rising sea levels. In the future, we can expect increased flooding at times, water scarcity at others, more frequent and intense heat waves, and further coastal erosion due to rising sea levels. That's why the Climate Change Committee has carried out a comprehensive assessment of the impacts and risks facing the UK. It's based on more than 3 years of work involving hundreds of leading scientists and public and private sector experts. Our assessment shows that overall, the level of climate risk we face has increased since our last review 5 years ago. The pace of climate change is outstripping the actions taken to adapt to it. There are 8 key areas that require the most urgent action within the next 2 years. Risks to natural habitats and species here in the UK. The health of soils facing increased flooding and drought. Damage to natural carbon stores in our trees and wetlands. Risks to crops, livestock, and timber. Interruption to key supply chains and distribution networks that we rely on in the UK. Risks of weather-related failures to the power system as we become more reliant on electricity. Health risks from higher temperatures and heat waves. And the many risks we face in the UK from the impacts of climate change in other countries. We can act to help manage these risks, but we must act now. The longer action is delayed, the higher the costs and the impacts on people, the economy, and our environment will be. The 2020s must be the decisive decade of progress and adaptation action to secure a better and more resilient future for us all.
Right. Well, you've all got the report in your packs in the agenda, which is very detailed in terms of the wards that we represent and Portishead generally compared to some other towns that are around and about. So what is this proposal from us, the declaration, about? It's been drawn up by Officer Lynn. It has 8 points, which I shall read through. And the first one is basically Portishead Town Council declares a climate emergency. Secondly, it pledges to do whatever is in its powers to reduce the impact of Portishead emissions, taking into account both production and consumption emissions. We will, as a first step, initiate and support a climate working group comprising of councillors to work with residents, investigating local responses and make recommendations for actions to council. We will work with North Somerset Council, other local authorities, neighbouring local councils, appropriate government departments and other organisations to create a climate action plan for Portishead. This will be based on established data available. We will place this issue on council committees' agendas to regularly review the climate action plan. On a regular basis, we will consider and take action on recommendations to address this emergency. We will endeavour to provide adequate staff time and leadership to prepare a report within 6 months to establish how Portishead Town Council can sufficiently reduce carbon emissions through the most impactful way, based on the data available for the town. And lastly, to develop a list of key performance indicators to measure the progress and impact of all measures taken. So, as Roger's said, as we've seen on the video, we can't escape this. We have to do something. And I think it's incumbent upon ourselves to vote the climate emergency declaration into our agendas for the future as of this evening. So whether we'll probably have a bit more information coming forward now, and then we'll take a vote at the end. Yep.
Yep, thank you very much, Mike. We're going to go over to Lynn now, who's just going to run through a few important points on this for us, and then she'll be open for questions. But can we all please bear in mind that she needs to lip read, so if everybody could look at her when they speak, because that would help her enormously. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you. I've just got a couple of extra points to add to the data that's already available to everybody. It's just to make people aware, really, that if we approve this motion tonight, it means it becomes available that we can tap into funding sources, external funding sources, to allow us to further support local community initiatives. So, for example, we can work alongside Turn the Tide further and a bit more wider afield, but with our local remit, we could work alongside Surfers Against Sewerage. It's just the point that by doing this declaration allows us to tap into extra external funding in order to carry out what actions we as a community and as a council feel is the right thing to do going forward. It's also, by taking this positive step, it's also going to open the doors really with greater collaboration with our colleagues in other councils that have already declared and other town councils as well. So it's extra collaboration and funding opportunities that's going to be open to us to make this happen. And it's just a little bit of a reminder in general, really, that living in Portishead is lush, but we tend to forget that actually we are a coastal town. And, you know, we see evidence of rising spring levels. Every spring tide now is overtopping. It's overtopping our sea defences in the nature reserve, and most recent one I saw down in the lake grounds. So it's just mindful that we are in that situation and we are a coastal town. So behind the scenes and prior to this declaration, we have been doing quite a lot of sustainable work in Portishead for the past 12 to 18 months. And one of those is regular clothes swaps. And this is involving the community, in the community pub. And it's been really successful. And we have saved more than 3 tons of greenhouse gases from being emitted to the atmosphere just by holding regular clothes swaps in the community. So that's a massive win already. In readiness for this declaration to be accepted, we have already created a new area on our website. It's gone live recently, and the area is all about pointing people in the right direction so they can make their own choices about what little changes they do for the overall impact. Those were kind of my 4 points that I just wanted to bring up in addition to the report. Has anybody got any questions?
Lynn, can I just point out that what you have done behind is extremely good. And of course, you've got all these links on there, which go through to other websites and other information sources. And you've done an excellent job. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
Sue, would you like to come to the mic? Sorry, you just turned it
Now
on.
I've switched it off and switched it back on again. Oh, what fun. Just to say, in the last council, I worked with Lynn on some of this stuff, and I know how hard she tried then to get stuff through, and it was very difficult. And I'm hopeful that this council will accept much more what she is trying to do for the town, and she really works hard. And I also still work with her, even though I'm no longer a town councillor. I still work with her, even though I haven't been to many of the recent meetings because I've had other meetings. But I would fully support everything that she does. And I do hope that the town council will take it on. But also what I have mentioned also since I've been a North Somerset councillor is that North Somerset do some training to be climate literate. And I have done that. So I am now climate literate. And I did say at a previous meeting here that I thought it would be very good if the town council worked with North Somerset to do this training for the whole council, because it's definitely well worth it, because it does make you think. Thank you.
Sue, I presume you're still involved with Fair Trade.
Yes. And Martin Dowling has taken over from my role here, but yes, I'm still involved in that. Yes.
Yes, if you need to ask a question, can you come up to the microphone and push the green button to speak? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Faye Powell. I'm Deputy Town Clerk at Weston Town Council. I'm here because I'm doing my Community Governance Uni course. So I'm attending different council meetings for one of my assignments. So that's by the by. The reason I was going to talk was to say that we declared a climate emergency and we've got a 10-year plan. It's quite a big undertaking. And as we are a neighbouring town council and we are year 3 or 4 in, and we started off small because we didn't want to have grand plans that we couldn't deliver, because obviously there are costs involved in actually carrying out some of this work. So we started off small, and we've had quite a few wins, and we started off with our own like council buildings, etc., and community assets that we had. So if you want any, as a town council, you want to meet or for us to share any of the knowledge that we've gained or whatever, then we'd be more than happy to.
That's lush. Thank you very much.
David?
I too would like to thank Lynn. It's great to see this on the agenda. One of the first questions I asked when I was thinking about being a councillor is why on earth Portishead hasn't declared a climate emergency, unlike many other councils. So fully support this. I guess just a couple of small issues to do with the precise wording of the declaration. I think on the 7th point, providing adequate staff time and leadership to prepare and report within 6 months, etc. Fully support that. We then go on to say, Portishead Town Council can sufficiently reduce carbon emissions through the most impactful way based on the data available for the town. I think that could be rephrased a little bit. So it's about Portishead Town Council doing its bit, and it's about us helping our residents do their bit. So I would end that assertion by saying, and assist our residents in doing the same. So I think there are two things. As a town council, we have to do our bit, look at our buildings, how we can insulate them. I know Lynn's done work on this already. And there's the educational element to this that I think could be drawn into that last, that 7th point. But it's great to see this happening.
Sorry, just before I go to you, Janet, just a quick question on that one. We're going to vote on this at the end. So do you want to raise that as an amendment, in which case we'll need a proposer and second?
Can I raise that as an amendment, please?
Okay. And Sharon, did you take down the wording of that?
So the wording was just to add to the end of point 7 and assist residents doing the same. If that makes sense to others.
Should we just check with Lynn?
Summarise, sorry, I misheard that.
Oh, could you summarise, but bear in mind that she needs to let read.
So the last add to the end of point 7 and assist residents doing the same. So it's about two prongs. It's about what the council can do and what residents can do.
Okay.
You just second that.
Was it? I was going to say Janet wanted to speak first, and then we'll take a vote on the amendments.
In the last council, we tried to put in some water refilling points, and we investigated where we could do them, and it was quite difficult. But I'm praying that we'd be able to do them this time. We found out that there was a problem about doing one here because of the length of the pipe going to the outside. It was the same in the Somerset Hall, I believe, and. What's that awful thing that you get from in water? Legionella was very likely if the water refillable points weren't used all the time. So we've got to really spend some time investigating where we can put those and maybe involve business people, business owners and cafe owners in that particular one, because it is quite difficult for us to do that as a town with the buildings we already have.
Emma, did you want to speak?
No, so it was only if we needed a seconder for David's amendment.
Jenny, I saw your hand go up, but no.
No, I'm in complete support, and I was quite surprised that we weren't already signed up.
Okay, that's good. So we have oh, sorry, Sue, I missed that. Sue, please come forward.
Sorry, it's me again. Just to say that in the previous council, yes, this was looked at, and Lynn and I did go up and down the high street and all round asking various shops, but some were happy to do it and some were not. And I do know that Heaven on the Hill already does this anyway. So if somebody wants to fill their water bottle, they are more than welcome to do it there. But I'm sure there are other shops as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I've just been reminded that these resources have been listed on the website as well.
Oh.
Correct? Yes. Okay, excellent. Good. So we have a proposal for an amendment from David. Do we have a proposer and seconder for that amendment? David and John? That's great. So we're going to vote first on the amendment. So all those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, and now we will go and vote on the declaration itself as amended. Okay, I'm going to have to reread it, and I'm going to need a prompt for the change there. So Portishead Town Council declares a climate emergency, pledges to do whatever is in its power to reduce the impact of Portishead's emissions, taking into account both production and consumption emissions. Will, as a first step, initiate and support a climate working group comprising of councillors to work with residents, investigating local responses and make recommendations for actions to council. We will work with North Somerset Council, other local authorities, neighbouring local councils, appropriate government departments and other organisations to create a climate action plan for Portishead. This will be based on established data available. We will place this issue on the council's committee agendas to regularly review the climate action plan. On a regular basis, we will consider and take action on recommendations to address this emergency. We'll provide adequate staff time and leadership to prepare a report within 6 months to establish how Portishead Town Council can sufficiently reduce carbon emissions through the most impactful way, based upon data available for the town and
assist residents to do the same.
And finally, to develop a list of key performance indicators to measure the progress and impact of all measures taken. I hope I got everything in there. Can we have a show of hands for all of those in favour? Oh God, yes, hands back down. There's me getting ahead of myself. We need a proposer and a seconder. And David. And again, all those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous, I believe. And I think it's a very important day for Portishead that we finally have declared a climate emergency and we've formalised a way forward to get an action plan. So thank you very much, everybody, for being involved in that. So I think I managed to get my my computer back on the straight and narrow. So climate declaration. No, I've jumped around again on this one. So the next item is now going to be, we're going to move item 14 grants up. So this is the next item we're going to be taking now. This is the grant for Portishead Christmas lights and the Royal British Legion parade, which are both in the same application. We've had a grant application in. It's in your pack. Everybody's seen it. Does anybody wish to speak to this? Nope. Okay. In which case, the recommendation is to approve a grant of £13,000 towards costs of the Christmas lights 2024 and £1,000 towards the Royal British Legion Parade 2024. Do I have a proposer and seconder for that? Did you catch? The proposer? Seconder? Okay, we got those. And a show of hands, all those in favour? Excellent. Right, yeah, no, important point there. Lynn, thank you very much for your report. You are welcome to stay to the end of the meeting if you want to, but equally don't feel as if you have to sit through the rest of what could be quite a boring meeting. You are quite welcome to leave if you'd like to.
Thank you. I'll leave in a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so whilst we're on the subject of moving things around, we're going to go straight into item 15, use of community halls as community emergency shelters. Again, we've had a report on this. Everybody has seen the report. Does anybody wish to speak to this? If not,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
The report noted that there were other places in Portishead which were also zoned as community emergency shelters. Would you just like to point out where they are? I think it's quite important in terms of public knowledge on that.
Do you notify the switches in use for each event?
I was going to say,
I see. So it's quite specific to.
So it's not Oh, there's an emergency, go for your shelter.
Sorry, do you have a microphone there?
But if that happens, then what happens?
If there's an emergency in a location, for example, there's an unexploded bomb found and they need to evacuate, then the North Somerset Council will nominate a local emergency shelter, and that will then be activated and opened.
I see.
So it won't take place and simply say, go to your nearest emergency shelter.
Okay, right. And that would normally be broadcast through local radio, that sort of thing.
Local radio, the news, websites,
Yeah.
and bearing in mind that also there will be an evacuation process in place where people will be told directly.
Okay. Oh, yes. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, which actually brings me on to something that happened to me probably 20 years ago when we were evacuated from our house down in the Vale because they did find an unexploded bomb. Fortunately, they managed to deal with it the same day. But had they not managed to deal with it the same day, there would have been a lot of displaced people who would have needed help and assistance. So I think it's quite important that that if we've got halls that can be used for this, then we should make sure they are used for it. The report says quite clearly there's no cost to us for this, and it's all run through North Somerset. So I'm going to need a proposer and a seconder. I'm happy to propose this one. And Jenny, I think, got up there first for that one. The recommendation is to agree that Portishead Town Council's 3 community halls, namely the Folk Hall, North Western Village Hall and Redcliffe Bay Hall, be registered for use as community emergency shelters. Can I have a show of hands for all those in favour, please? We did the proposer and seconder. So I believe that's unanimous there. Sorry, Janet, am I rushing on too fast? There's quite a lot on the agenda. I'm trying to. Okay, so we are now going to move back to item 9 on the agenda, which was the internal audit report 2023 to 2024. John, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, I'm so glad that we got to the really boring bits at last. Suspense was killing me. Right, the internal audit report is a standard review conducted by contracted auditors. This report is generally extremely favourable to us, and I think that our thanks are due to our responsible finance officer, Rachel, for keeping all our records in perfect condition. There are only 2 minor recommendations for change. One relates to the treatment of some very old debts relating to hall rentals. The other relates to identifying VAT within petty cash expenses that can be recovered. Staffing and Finance Committee will be discussing both of these recommendations with the council officers at their next meeting to discuss the best way forward on each of these items. I recommend that we accept the report.
Thank you, John. Does anybody else wish to speak to this? No. Is this for noting, or do we have to?
No, it needs to be approved. John's just proposed it. So
Oh, excellent. So John's proposed. We need a seconder for approval. David, and a show of hands for all those in favour, please. So this is where it gets confusing because I move stuff around on the agenda and then I lose track of where I am. I've got it. Number 10. To receive the accounts for the financial year 2023 to 24 and to note the recommendation of the Staffing and Finance Committee to approve the accounts for the financial year 2023 to 24 attached. The recommendation is to approve the accounts for the financial year ended 31st of March 2024. Does anybody wish to speak to this?
Yes, another instalment of boring, exciting life on the accountancy front. The outcome for the year is actually rather better than we were expecting. When the budget was put together, we anticipated a deficit of £40,000 for this year. In fact, we are showing what amounts to a surplus of just over £30,000. That's a £70,000 improvement, which is caused by a mixture of not very good forecasting, some cost savings, and some deferrals of expenditure into this year. But however you look at it, it gives us a bit more flexibility for coping what will be a difficult year this year. So I recommend that we accept the accounts as stated.
Okay, do I have a second?
Propose.
That's great. Do we have a seconder for that? Anybody else wish to speak to it? I think so. I can't look in two directions at once. It's really awkward, yeah. So, all those in favour? Excellent. So 11, Consolidated Bank Statement, 31st of March 2024. To note the recommendation of the Staffing and Finance Committee to approve the Town Council's Consolidated Bank Statement for 31st of March 2024 attached. Would you like to speak to this as well, John?
For your edification and delight.
Thank you.
The balance of just under £800,000 is exactly the figure I was expecting. And for what it's worth, it represents our general reserves at the end of the year of £606,000, plus our earmarked reserves at the same time of £153,000, plus an allowance for unpaid bills, which were not received in time to be processed, of a further £37,000. We are therefore in a reasonably satisfactory position for the start of this financial year. And I propose that you accept the statement as presented.
Okay, so the recommendation is to consider, note and approve the Consolidated Bank Statement for 31st of March 2024. You are proposing that. Can I have a seconder? David, all those in favour, please? And again, that's carried. Item number 12. Annual Governance and Accountability Return, AGAR 2023-2024. John, would you like to speak to this?
This is a standard report, which is basically a summary of the three previous ones we have discussed. It is a certificate concerning the general financial well-being of the council. It has been carefully checked and compiled both sections 1, which is the statement of the principles, and section 2, which is the actual numbers. There is very little I can say about that other than recommending that it be signed, approved.
Okay, so the recommendation is to approve sections 1 and 2 of the AGAR, which I believe is Annual Governance and Accountability Return. Yes. Annual Governance Statement 2023 to 2024, Accounting Statements for 2023 to 2024, and to note that the period of public rights for 2023 to 2024 will commence on the 24th of June 2024 and will end on the 2nd of August 2024. That's what you proposed?
I proposed.
Excellent. Can I have a seconder, please? David, and all those in favour?
There is a typo there.
I know. I tried to fight my way through it. There's a couple of typos in there, but we won't go through those at the moment. Okay, so the next one is Portishead Lake Grounds Play Area Safety Surface. To consider the installation of matter safety surface at the Lake Grounds Play Area, report attached. So everybody's had a report for this and hopefully had a chance to look through it. If they've got any questions, now's the time. So if anyone would like to speak to this or have any questions on it, John, is that? No, sorry, your microphone's still lit up. So I wondered if you wanted to come in on that. So anybody wish to say anything to this?
I will.
Thank you.
just to point out that some of it is in a terrible state at the moment and causing potential danger to the young children that are using it. This is following a visit that Summer has made to said area, and it's a necessity really that we deal with the issues raised in the report and accept this recommendation to make it safer for children and to open up the area to as it should be.
And I believe, Mike, that if we don't do this, then we're going to be in trouble and probably going to have to shut the area down. So we're between a rock and a hard place on this one.
Yes, that's true.
And we have been subject to one of the wettest winters ever, which I think has caused this to degrade faster than we would normally expect it to. Jenny, did you want to come in?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I was going to support what Mike said, that actually we visited with Sharon a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and the level of usage, even though it wasn't a half term, it was sort of a Tuesday morning, was incredibly high usage of complete age range of families. And and the work really does need doing. I think we've managed to get a pretty good, an improved quote, let's put it like that. So it really needs doing, or we will have to close some of the play area off. Yeah.
Okay, and therefore the recommendation is to approve the costs for the installation of matter safety surface at Portishead Lake Grounds play area. To accept the quote direct from the matter supplier and approve expenditure of £16,969.50 plus VAT to improve safety service. Did I get that one right? So I know the figures in the report are not in on the agenda.
And that includes the installation by the Matter company, isn't it?
Yes. Are you happy with that, Sharon?
Yeah.
Oh, just bear with us a second while we double check that figure's correct. Plus that, yeah. Okay. So again, the recommendation is to accept the quote direct from the Matter supplier and approve expenditure of £16,969.50 plus VAT to improve the safety surface. Do I have a proposer, Jenny, and a seconder? Who got there first? John? Okay, and all those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. That was 13 Lake Grounds play area. 14 and 15 we've already taken out of order earlier on today. So moving on to item 16, the Folk Hall lift essential maintenance. Again, there is a report to consider the release of funds to complete essential maintenance on the Folk Hall lift report attached. Everyone's seen the report and had a chance to go through it. Before we move the recommendation, does anybody have any questions, or would anybody like to say anything? John?
Yes. The state of the lift is one of the points covered by Osman Trick's work. Yeah, sure. The state of the lift is one of the items covered by the repair program that Osman Tricks are now in the process of establishing. We need to make sure that whatever we do doesn't cut across anything that they had previously planned to do.
It would be something we would take out of the Osman Tricks requirement for the simple reason that it's essential maintenance. These are legal requirements that we have to meet, and to delay further would obviously put ourselves at risk.
Well, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we're all aware of the cost of lifts nowadays. So having one repaired to get more life out of it is probably a good move forward. Therefore, the recommendation is that essential maintenance to the lift is completed to a maximum value of £4,000 excluding VAT to include allowance for unforeseen contingencies or price rises. Do I have a proposer for that? Janet, and a seconder, Jenny. All those in favour? Unanimous. Item 17 is subscriptions to other bodies. I am aware that there was a question over the Parish Council's Airport Association subscription at the last meeting, and we have been given further information on this, which is in your minutes, and now it's time to look back to see whether or not we want to continue to pay the £95 per annum subscription to the Parish Council's Airport Association. Everyone's had a report or a letter on this one. Hopefully you've all read them and you know what's going on. Does anybody have any questions or anything they would like to say on this one? No, in which case I move that we continue with our subscription of £95 per annum to the Parish Council's Airport Association. Do I have a seconder for that? Okay, Jenny, and all those in favour? Again, unanimous, thank you. Number 18 is the climate declaration, which we took earlier. So moving swiftly on to item 19, finance. John, did you wish to, as it's a finance matter, did you wish to say anything to this? Microphone.
Apologies once again. This is the conflict of interest statement regarding Binder Hamlins. Yes, it is.
Yes.
I can't look at both parts of the agenda papers at the same time.
Do you want me to just state that this is to receive and sign the conflict of interest with BDO LLP external auditor declaration, one paper, and to approve payment of invoice number 800446290, invoice attached?
I am not aware of any conflicts of interest with anyone on the council.
Okay, do you want to propose that? That we sign the conflict of interest with BDO LLP external auditor declaration and approve payment of invoice number 800446290 attached. I'll second that. Sorry, no, I won't.
There's two different points. The invoice isn't related to BDO. The invoice is related to the parking officer.
Yes. Do we want to take the invoice separately? Yep. Okay. So let's go with the conflict of interest declaration first. It's been proposed and seconded. So no, stop, David. You're looking confused.
Well, just a quick question. I mean, who's the conflict of interest with? It's not clear. Is this whether
it's
the town council has
it's to declare that the town council does not have a conflict of interest with the auditors, I believe.
Nobody owns shares in the auditors.
I suppose we can only speak on behalf of the councillors who are actually here right now. But
yeah.
We're happy with that, that's fine.
And no councillors have registered a conflict of interest in their register of interests. Okay, so let's just go through this one more time then. To receive and sign the conflict of interest with BDO LLP external auditor declaration. John has proposed. I will second. All those in favour? Lovely. Okay, so we'll go on to look at the payment of the invoice, which I believe is for parking enforcement services. Is that correct?
Yes.
23,000 £775.62. This is to pay a contribution, I believe, towards the parking enforcement in this town. And Janet would like to speak.
I think that from what people have told me, that we should have more say in where the planning enforcement people go if we're going to pay this. Because at the moment, they seem to be sticking around the high street or spending an awful lot of time outside the swimming pool and putting fines on people who take a van into the swimming pool car park to pick up their children, for example, from school, which is next door. And I think that that they're not doing things like go to the Vale, where we know there's very poor parking. They're not going to places like the Village Quarter, where there's poor parking, and they're not going up to the Tesco's on West Hill, where there's poor parking, and actually dealing with the parking in those places, which are just as important as the car park outside the swimming pool, as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of the issues that we have in the town and a lot of the complaints we have in the town is because of poor parking. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted the parking officer in the first place.
Thank you, Janet. David?
I mean, this invoice is for the last 12 months, isn't it? So I guess we're on a ban to pay it. But I think it wouldn't be unreasonable for us as a town council to ask for a report from them about what their activities are. So how many people and where they've imposed fines, and perhaps, well, not perhaps, definitely take direction from us about where they might focus their activities. I think those two conditions for paying this sum of money would be a minimum.
Emma?
Yeah, sorry, we do have that. We have that facility because they've got a tracker on their device. So we do have access to see where they've been, how long they've been at those different places. And we've also got the opportunity to feed in to suggest locations that they go. So I know it was brought up when we first looked into breaking down the invoice and the time that they were spending at each of the locations. So all of those KPIs, if you want to call them that, are available to us. I'm just not sure whether we're actually taking, whether we look into it, but they are available. The invoice itself is for 6 months, not 12 March. Yeah, yeah.
So Mike wanted to go, and then Janet.
Emma's just picked my point up as well. That this is only for 6 months. I know that we've had discussions before about the role of the civil enforcement officer, whether, as Janet is saying, we can have more say in the matter as to where he, presumably, it's a he at the moment, isn't it?
Both.
Okay. Where they operate. And we have already raised the issue about the fines which are imposed as to whether pro rata some of it could come back to the town. Anyway, these are just issues which are slightly aside from the invoice in front of us.
Okay, Janet?
If this information is available, which I didn't know, could it be, please, given to all members of the council?
Thank you, Janet. I was going to ask something very similar, actually. I wondered if Community Matters could bring a report to the next council meeting, which would be in September, so that everyone's fully cited on it. And David, did you want to speak?
Yeah, and I guess the actions we need to be very specific to Darren Baker and just say exactly what we want that report to be. I mean, it doesn't need to be a long one. It just needs to be a list of how many fines have been issued, what streets have been patrolled, as per Emma's suggestion, if they got that information, so we can just have a look at it and see if that matches the kind of concerns we're getting from our residents. So not some long wordy report, some, half a page, something will take the guy not very long to do, I would hope. I'm sorry about the 6 months, 12 months, 6 months.
Sorry, Emma.
Yeah, sorry. I believe that it's accessible by us, self-serve. So it's in a portal. So we brought this up a number of months ago when we started investigating or asking for the investigation of, so it might have been through a community matters meeting, but we had the investigation in terms of what time was spent where, and this was the feedback that we had. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll look to put that down on the agenda for a report to come back
And then I'll bring it back
in the
up,
September
yeah,
meeting.
we'll
That
come
would be perfect. So at the moment, where we stand is we have an invoice for £19,813.02 plus VAT, making a total of £23,775.62 for the services of a civil enforcement officer, whose services we've already had, and we need to approve payment of that invoice. So can I have a proposer, please, to approve payment? Okay, Emma, and a seconder, David, and all those in favour. Janice, are you going to, oh, shall I say all those against? Or are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, so if you like to pop, yeah, pop that down as a abstention, that's fine. Okay, that being all of the business of the meeting, the date of the next meeting for the Town Council is Wednesday, the 11th of September 2024 at 7:30 p.m. back here in the Folk Hall. I now declare the meeting closed. I haven't even got my gavel.